On one hand, taking a kid 11th overall in the NHL draft whose chief deficiency is skating kind of feels like a mistake, you know? Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. I watched a lot of Kindel film from the WHL. I watched a lot of scoring highlights, playmaking highlights, and yeah, some skating highlights. But I can see what the cynics say and said before the draft should have kept him from being selected by anybody that high in the first round. Because there's some awkwardness to his blade work. There's a lack of smoothness even when he gets going. And above all, there's a clear absence of strength. And that might be the key term here. If you read between the lines of various things that were spoken over these past few days, the team's development camp that ended yesterday in Cranberry, it's easy to pick up that the Pittsburgh management types feel he just needs to fill out. And that goes doubly so for his leg strength. Now, in fairness, they weren't the first ones to figure this out because that too showed up in some of the pre-draft reporting. But nonetheless, if they get ultimately everything that they legitimately like about Kindel as an offensive producer, the shot, the vision, the delivery, the execution, and all they have to do to up his value in the interim is have him hit some leg weights, do some squats, then they'll really have come upon something. But wow, you'd better be right. And how can you know now if you're gonna be right? This was Tom Kostopoulos, Director of Player Development, after the scrimmage yesterday on the subject of Kindel and his skating.
You see the hockey sense, you see the playmaking ability, and then the skating, I think there's a ton of room for growth and improvement. So he's a very young kid, excited that he's here, really have enjoyed meeting him, working with him, getting to know him, and he's been really inquisitive, asking questions, wanting to learn. I think being in here in this environment has been a bit eye-opening for him, just to see all the players and how hard everyone works. So it's been a really good trip for him, and then exciting to see that there's room for growth and strength in skating, which will only, if you give a smart player more speed and strength, their game's only going to grow. So I think he's a kid that's willing to put in the work, and he knows what he has to do. So it's been fun to have him here.
I'm going to date myself with this reference, but I love the fact that TK's the guy being asked about improving his skating, because in TK's playing days, for those of you who go way back, you'll recall that was the only thing holding him back. And he worked relentlessly to lengthen his stride, to make fuller use of his frame and other skill sets that he had. Eventually became a nice National Hockey League player, most of that in Montreal, but some of it here in Pittsburgh. So if anyone's going to be a believer that yes, you can address your skating, yes, you can do so emphatically, it's going to be him. But there's more to it. Kyle Dubas believes that the Penguins have a process overall, and again, not that they reinvented the wheel or they're bragging about it or anything, but that they feel like they can work with players on their skating, and they don't all have to be children to adapt. Una Koppanen is a perfect example. Did you like what you saw of him late in the season? Did you not notice him all that much? That's because I think he still has a long way to go as far as feeling comfortable at the NHL level. But the speed that he's shown was something that stood out not only to management, but also to his teammates. I remember Vasily Ponomarev asking me if I'd noticed the difference in Koppanen's skating, and asked it, by the way, just completely out of nowhere, because that's just how he carries conversations. But that's not an accident. Kyle Dubas will attest that the Penguins' internal metrics showed a 12% improvement in Kopanen's skating. So if you feel like you've unlocked something here, and I'm going to start getting all Moneyball on everybody, then you can exploit weaknesses in the market. You can find players who maybe their most glaring weakness, possibly their only weakness, is skating, and say, well, skating, oh yeah, no problem, we can fix that. And then you can bring in such a player. But I'm going to say this again, you better be right, especially as it relates to investing such a high draft pick. In other words, you'd better be seeing things that suggest that strength would add to quickness or speed, as opposed to that athlete just being, like some of us in life, naturally slow. I'm really slow. That's why I bring that up. You watch me on a sidewalk, I'm like molasses walking down the street. I don't have another gear. I could become a world champion bodybuilder, and you're not going to make me fast. So you better see something. The one impression that I'm most convinced that was made over the course of this development camp is that this kid would have absolutely gotten the message, since it sounds like everyone everywhere was being asked about his skating, including the young man himself, including after this scrimmage yesterday.
Yeah, I think just tried to push myself as much as I could around the ice. I think I did well to show some burst in my skating, and
Well, here's hoping. He does have traits that a lot of hockey evaluators believe are innate is too strong of a term, but are things that are much, much more difficult to coach than straight line speed. He's creative on the ice. He's imaginative. He's dynamic. He's looking for plays that are still probably 2 steps ahead of everybody else that's on the rink. That's wonderful. That's awesome. But you gotta be able to keep up. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Josh, who says, DK, I'm a bit confused and maybe just not seeing the forest through the trees. I was under the impression that Kyle Dubas's plan was to create a situation where the kids can earn a spot and, if need be, send veterans down if he can't move them. That said, Dubas has signed quite a few players, leaving little, if any, room for other young players like, say, Philip Hollander or Avery Hayes to win spots. I get that he can send those newly signed players down, but doesn't this just muddy the process? Josh, I can see where you're coming from, and I can see the muddying that's involved. I can also see that a lot of us, and man, am I not excluding myself from this at all, are going to feel like the young guys aren't going to get a fair shake until the young guys do get a fair shake, because it's still really difficult to process that Mike Sullivan's not the head coach anymore. I can't tell you in casual conversation how many times I've referenced something about the Penguins and coaching, and I've just blurted out Sully's name. He was around for a long time. He made a really big impression. And look, until we see how Dan Muse works with Dubas, to what degree those two will be on the same page, and one would imagine it would be to a very, very large extent, given that, Muse owes his NHL head coaching employment to Dubas. My feeling way in advance, and I couldn't know this for sure since we've yet to see them work together, is that the ties are probably going to go to the kids, or maybe even the near losses will go to the kids. Because if we're keeping this real here, if you're talking about the difference between giving a real NHL opportunity to a player you believe has earned that opportunity through their work in the AHL, even more so than what you would see in the coming training camp, then you're not going to see some similar sense of entitlement granted to, say, Justin Brazeau, who was brought in. I don't mean to knock Brazeau here or whatever. 6'6", 227. He still has realistically his own future ahead of him. He's 27, but he also is coming off a season where in 57 games in Boston, he had 10 goals and 10 assists. You'll take that out of your 6'6" forwards. Now, he went on to Minnesota, didn't do nearly as well, a goal and an assist in 19 games. But if there's a player who is a Hayes or a Tristan Brose or someone like that, you're going to see management react accordingly. They don't want players who they feel have cleared the AHL check marks to feel like they're stunted. They don't want them to actually be stunted. They want them to have an opportunity to show what they can do at the main level. Does that muddy things? Yeah, it muddies things for you and me, my man. I mean, we have to actually work a little bit to figure out what the lines are going to look like and what the pairings are going to look like. Heck, even who's in goal. But does it muddy the process itself? No, I don't think so. The one thing I'd never be in favor of is just handing jobs out. I know that's something that's probably not all that popular with the bulk of the fan base, because you just want to see, let's just go all kids. Let's just do that. Hand it out. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in any environment, in any sport. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to have another one of these tomorrow.